Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Marilyn Sanders Mobley, and we're here on Friday, May 29th in the special collections of the Cleveland Public Library, where we are continuing our Blacks in Management Archive project. And I'm so excited today to have with me Doug Bennett, a member of Blacks in Management who was also an officer. When I was president, he was secretary of Blacks in Management. So Doug, we're happy to have you, and I'm looking forward to your insights, because what we get by interviewing you is your own memories, and those include your late father's. And so we feel like this is a bonus interview, and so I just want to say thank you. I know it hasn't been that long since your father passed, but I just want you to know we are still with you and standing with you in our condolences, and we feel blessed that we get this opportunity with you. So thank you for saying yes.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and obviously BIM has definitely a place in my heart, so I'm glad that you reached out, and I'm glad I can do it.
Okay, so let's get going.
All right.
My first question is, this is kind of like a trick question. It's the same one I asked Lorna when you're the child of a BIM member, but it is, when and how did you learn about BIM?
I learned about BIM obviously through my father and through his meetings that he would come home from and talk about the members and some of the things that they discussed, but he didn't discuss that with me until I was a little further in my career.
Okay.
But he talked about just the camaraderie that was at the meetings and some of the challenges that each member was facing. And I never thought I would be a part of BIM, because I always thought that that would be that lofty goal of, you know, executive leadership. And not that I never thought I would be in a leadership position.
Sure.
But it was always one of those things I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever really go to a meeting with my dad. And
But did you?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad approached me, and a couple of the other members at that point in time had kind of pulled my coattails a little bit and said, was this something that you would be interested in? And I obviously said, let me think about it, because that means I have to go to meetings with my dad.
Right. Of course.
But I said, the organization sounds amazing, and obviously the people that make up or made up BIM were some were family, some were friends, and some I knew throughout the community. So I thought, what a great organization to belong to. So he brought me into one of the meetings, one of my first ones, and
Do you know about when that was?
it probably,
If you don't remember, it doesn't matter.
Well,
I just I'm being nosy now.
yeah, I was going to say, because I don't want to date myself, but it probably.
Well, we have dating.
I know. Well, yes, we did. Well, yes, we have. I would have to say it was probably in the 1990s.
Okay.
Ish.
Okay.
I think is when I first started working at AT&T, and that was probably around 1997, 1998, when I really started getting a little bit more active in BIM.
I just was asking for reference because, you know, I became a part of BIM in 2009.
Okay.
When I first moved back here to Ohio, and I knew it already had an illustrious history before I arrived.
Yes.
In fact, the library director Felton, and I came into BIM at the same time.
Oh, wow.
The same year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just like to sometimes know. I like to know in relation to when I came, which was late compared to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So the 1990s. What role did BIM play for you personally as an executive in Cleveland?
Again, I think it afforded me the opportunity to really talk with peers that look like me about some of the challenges that I faced in corporate America.
Okay.
Even now, there still aren't that many in positions of authority and power.
Okay.
But it allowed me that sounding board when I did have some problems that I didn't know how to exactly deal with.
Right.
I mean, they weren't always in the meetings, but it allowed me that network to
That's
kind
right.
of reach out and say, this is what I'm dealing with. Have you ever experienced this? What do you think? Or I'm thinking about making this move. What do you think? And
Right. And that's what I keep hearing, that it was a safe space
yes,
for those very kind of confidential conversations.
yes,
You didn't want it on blast, and it wasn't a big thing, but it was just a nuance of leadership that you knew somebody in BIM has faced this before.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
And part of that too was actually hearing some of the, I guess, the historic conversations, if you want to look at it that way, you know, whether it was Bill Boswell and, or even my dad and some of the other people that were in BIM that, you know, were in these corporate positions,
Right.
really, I think even before BIM took off
Okay.
and how they were able to kind of have somebody else help them navigate.
You know, I think that's important. I don't want to get ahead of my questions
Sure.
about the current situation, but I think that is important to, you know, to know that there is some history.
Yes.
Sometimes when we're new in a position, there's a temptation to think we've got to lay out the whole groundwork, but we don't. There are
No.
people ahead of us. So,
Yes.
what role or office did you hold over the years? Now, I know part of the answer.
Well, I was going to say,
Okay.
I think
Were you ever president?
I
don't-
was not.
Okay, okay,
I
but
was
I
not.
knew you were secretary, but I didn't know about before that.
No, secretary was really the only position
Okay.
that I had within the organization.
Okay.
Now, you got to, at one point in time, you remember I moved out of the city.
I
Yeah,
remember that.
for
Yeah.
about 6 or 7 years. And
Okay.
so then, you know, by the time I got back, you know, BIM had kind of changed a little bit, and I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and I never really got re-engaged at that point in time until a
Right.
little bit later on. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point that comes up in some of the interviews, that BIM changed. And maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, but I guess I have a question before that. What are
Okay.
some of the unique accomplishments of BIM that you do recall? Because I think some of the changes accounts for why we're at this moment of sunsetting it. You know, Cleveland has changed, the organizations have changed, we have changed, but there were some things that BIM did that were unique, and I guess I'd like your take on that, that you recall.
I was going to say, now I'm going to have to recall.
Okay.
Because honestly, BIM was just, it was an organization that, not that they did things behind the scenes.
I knew that's where you were headed. So Lorna reminded me it was by invitation only.
Yes,
It was created to be like a safe networking place for
Yes.
these kinds of questions that you
Correct.
just mentioned. But it was not like some other organizations, which we don't necessarily have to name in this interview, but there were some other organizations who were very public. They had
Correct.
very public events. They had very
Correct.
public programs and
Yes.
moments.
yes,
BIM was a behind the scenes
correct,
intentionally.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because from my recollection, it was always one of these, and I'll use this as an example.
Okay.
Say Andy Venable, or since we're in the Cleveland Public Library, had a problem that he was trying to navigate, whether it was with a board member or something to that effect, or something even internally.
Right.
You know, we would have those discussions in the meeting,
Okay.
and then we would give that person some ideas about how to deal with it, but then we would also pick up a phone and kind of do that behind the scenes of, hey, have you heard about this? And
Right.
it kind of, again, a low-key approach of kind of lobbying efforts
Okay.
without really being
I got it.
the organization behind that
That's
lobbying.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That is so critical, because even though I've retired, one of the things that I noticed when I moved from faculty to executive leadership is how lonely it is.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't always know who you can talk to without it being some sort of mark against your leadership.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
you know that you have a legitimate question, but there may be other people saying, "Oh, they didn't know that," you know.
Right,
You know, so
yeah.
BIM was a safe place to get those kinds of questions answered, so that we could continue our work. One of the things that some people name, I believe you have been at some of them, were the welcome
Yes,
receptions
yes,
for
yes.
new, and we kind of added something to that. We added recognizing people who had been part of BIM for a while, like
Yes.
before she died. I remember we recognized Charlie Pratt. It was one of her last BIM events. But that was one of the accomplishments that some people kept mentioning. So even though BIM had a private identity,
Sure.
they started having these public moments where if you were a new executive in town, we welcomed you.
Yes.
So I recall being at a couple of those with you.
Yes. And there were also,
Mm-hmm.
if you recall, we then started reaching out to some of our public officials as well, to
Yes.
have those kind of conversations with people in BIM about, you know, what some of the things that they are doing impact and how they impact individuals.
Right.
But I think it was also a function of letting them or us kind of let them know what, you know, we thought
That's
about
right.
some of the things or some of the initiatives that they were thinking about implementing or instituting. So there was
Yeah.
a little bit of that because I think Mayor Jackson
We did.
came at
Yes.
one point in time, and I think even now this is going back. I don't know if it was Congresswoman Fudge or
Oh.
Jones. One of them, I
Oh.
think,
Okay. I knew I
participated.
was at the one with Mayor Jackson,
Yeah.
and we did one with Mayor Bibb.
Okay. That's right. That's right. Yes.
And so I'm glad you mentioned those because those haven't come up quite as much. I think Reverend Hilton Smith mentioned them.
Okay.
But those opportunities were for that kind of dialogue and exchange, you know. We wanted that the public official to meet us and know who
Yes.
we were.
Correct.
And know that we were available
Right, a
to
resource
assist.
for
A
them. Right,
resource.
yes.
That's right. A
Yes.
resource for them. And then it gave us a chance to hear what, as you said, what was coming down the pike in case we could give insight. You
Yes,
know, we
yeah.
weren't trying to tell the mayor, in the two cases I remember, the two mayors.
Yes.
We weren't trying to tell them what to do.
Right.
But it was an opportunity to hear if they had concerns that they wanted to run by us.
Correct. Correct.
So, I don't understand this question that I have here, but it's, what was the response to BIM and its initiatives? Oh, that's right. From the corporate community and from the greater Cleveland community that you recall. Do you recall any, either from your own recollection or from your dad's conversation about this is how the corporate community received BIM, or this is what was said in the community about BIM? Any recollections like that?
Not that I recall, because
Okay.
again, it's one of these, you know, if you mentioned them in an offhanded conversation, I think people were generally supportive of what we
Oh.
were trying to accomplish.
Okay.
But it still goes back to, I don't know if that was just a common practice. It's not like BIM ever, at least that I can recall, ever had a golf outing where we're like, okay,
Oh, okay.
you know, come in and we're going to have
right.
a lunch or we're going to do that type of thing.
Okay.
Other than when we were inviting those new
Right,
leaders
right.
to meet us.
Okay.
So,
What about the family events? Do you recall any of those? Because more than one person has mentioned this is not quite the greater Cleveland community, but
Yeah.
that it was an opportunity for families to join BIM members at BIM events.
Yes.
They were just BIM events.
yeah,
not-
I do recall a couple of cookouts or
Right, okay.
and or small parties where you
Mm-hmm.
would get the opportunity to be with other
Okay.
BIM families and friends
Right.
and the such. So, yeah, there were a couple. I don't recall anything of note, but
Okay.
other than the fact that they were a lot of fun and you had a lot of good conversations going on. And,
Right.
and again, people sometimes reconnecting because, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's always difficult to do that in the workday.
This is true.
And
This is
so
true.
it's nice when you kind of decompress and really just kind of be
Mm-hmm.
yourselves and just have good conversations without dealing with the work portion of your life.
I like the part you just said about be yourselves, because sometimes people have this image of corporate life as you have to have a corporate persona
Yeah.
in certain settings.
Mm-hmm.
And Stefan was interviewed this week also.
Okay.
And I remember a get together at his house that was just the way you characterized it.
Yeah.
People just could relax and, not worry if the board of trustees was walking down the
Right.
hall or,
Exactly.
or the president or CEO
Yeah.
was next door. Not that anybody's doing anything in any way nefarious, but you just sometimes need a safe space to just chill.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember that get together at Stefan's. It was a cookout.
Yeah.
It was like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. You brought up a point that even in an environment where you see other people in leadership positions, and they could be African American, it's still one of these things where you still have to be a little guarded
That's right.
because
That's
you
right.
still don't know what their true intentions are. And I think that's another thing that BIM brought to the individuals who were in that room.
Yeah.
You know-
I'm so glad you said that, because no one has really articulated the way you just did, but there has been, people will say the expression like-minded.
Yes.
That BIM brought like-minded people.
Yes.
And so it's not even code, but they're just different ways of saying
Sure.
you want to be sure that the people you invite into BIM, or we wanted to be sure people we invited into BIM, I got to use past tense,
Yeah, I understood. I know it's challenging.
were committed to what we were committed to and cared
Correct.
about why we were even doing things the way we were.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You raise an important issue that you can't make an assumption.
Right.
Just like we don't want other people making an assumption that all black people think alike or are alike. We had to
Correct.
be careful of that ourselves.
Right.
And so
Because I think we've all been in scenarios or in work environments where you want to believe that you can trust.
right.
And this is not even a black thing. It's
Right.
anybody that you
Anyone.
work with.
That's right.
But sometimes you cannot. And
I
so
know.
you have to be aware of what you say. So again, BIM gave you that safe space to do that.
That's right. And to kind of anticipate how certain decisions you had to make could be received.
Yes.
I appreciate that. I got to think twice before saying certain things in
Yes.
certain settings.
Yes.
What would you want current black executives to know about BIM? There is no BIM right now, but we anticipate that people will come to the library. People will send people to the library and say, go listen to the BIM interviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would you want a current executive in Cleveland to know about blacks in management?
Well, I think that even though it's sunsetting, I believe that it still has a place.
Oh,
I don't know if it's in its current form, but I still think the struggle is real and the struggle is out there for many minority execs or
That's
women
true.
execs to
that's very
try
true.
to just manage on a day in and day out basis. And I don't know where that space is, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that people will look at this and say, well, maybe there needs to be the next iteration of it,
Yeah.
or that we need to rebuild that network so people do have that safe space to have those conversations. Especially
I
in
hear a
today's
BIM
environment.
2.0.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
maybe a reboot.
A reboot.
I just don't know what that looks
Excuse
like
me.
because again, you look at this world environment that we're in right now, and
Mm-hmm.
we would like to think that the playing field is semi-level, but it's still not.
It's still not.
So,
And we're in a current moment when initiatives that may have been anticipated or needed when BIM was in
sure.
place are now, there's just a new terrain
Yes.
to navigate. And
Yes.
so, even though, allegedly we can't say DEI in certain
Yes. Yes.
situations,
Yes. Yes.
excuse me, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that executives aren't still dealing with
Yes.
DEI kind of issues in
Correct.
the workplace.
Yeah.
So there may be a need for something like BIM.
And you touched a very key point. It's how do you think that DEI is a bad word? It's the most fascinating thing,
Thank
and
you.
that's the
I
reason why.
don't know.
That's the reason why, like I said, is it a 2.0? Is there a different way to have those conversations?
Right.
It shouldn't be that way, and the fact that a lot of entities, whether it's corporate, nonprofit, public, private, are
All of them.
backing away from it,
Right.
it's kind of disconcerting. So,
Yeah, it is. To say the least, it
yes.
is. Well, we're winding down here, but this is your chance to share what's your fondest memory of BIM.
Wow. There were quite a few, but
Okay.
I still,
I'll take a few.
no, I'm just going to tell you one.
Okay.
I think honestly, the first meeting with my dad,
Okay.
because I think it was, and maybe I'm just being a little reminiscent.
That's okay. That's good.
But it was one of those times when my father and I, obviously, we did a lot of things socially together,
Okay.
being in the same fraternity and some other things. But
Are
this
you
was,
both alphas?
yes,
Oh.
there is only one. But
The man I'm seeing is an alpha. He would say the same
Same-
thing. He's been an alpha for 60 years.
smart man, smart man.
I know.
My dad was one for 70.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
70.
yes.
Oh, I'm going to tell my friend this today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it was going into the meeting and, kind of still being that little boy with my dad, but then kind of feeling a sense of, wow, okay, now I'm doing things professionally with my dad. I
That's
said
nice.
it was such a good feeling, and you don't think much about it at the
Right.
time,
Right.
but as I reflected back throughout my career, I was kind of like, wow, that was
You
like
did
the
that.
first, yeah, and that was like one of the first times that we did do like
Wow.
that kind of business thing. So, yeah, that
Okay.
was one of my fondest memories. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Maybe we've hinted at this, but if there were an aspect of BIM you would have changed, what would it be?
I don't know if there is
Okay.
anything in particular that I would change.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe, yeah, I don't know if there really is anything. In the perfect world, you would like to say, how do you keep people engaged? Because again, in this world, when people
Right.
are moving so quickly and being pulled in 15 different directions, how do you keep this entity,
And that's something we experience,
Yeah.
I hate to admit it, but it's also that we were aging.
Well, yeah.
And, new executives were coming into town, and there were lots of things pulling their attention, just like you're saying.
Yes.
So to tell them about this organization when there's so many other organizations vying for their attention,
Yeah. And I do think that there is some of that, okay, well, I don't need to belong to this organization. I will call up
ah,
Marilyn, talk to her. I don't
Okay.
need to go to a meeting
Right.
with 10 or 15 others to kind of have this sounding board. So I don't know if that was part of that or not.
That's a good point.
Because if you think about when this organization was first started, there might have been 5. And
Yep,
so
right.
now maybe people feel like their network is much broader. They can call somebody in Chicago, they can call somebody in New York, and still be able to get that same sort of sounding board.
That's a very good point. I remember talking to Reverend Stanley Miller about that very thing. I said to him, we weren't talking about sunset. We were just talking about the organization was in transition. That's the most we were saying. And I said to him, at the point that BIM started around the Stokes administration, people didn't have any places to go, and they
Right.
didn't have a lot of people ahead of them to talk things over with. So there was a real need. It was an urgent need, it seems to me,
Yeah.
hearing about it. But I would say now, new executives, for example, they're often not new to being in the C-suite or in an executive role.
Right.
They may just be new to Cleveland,
Correct.
as opposed to back in the day, people were new to the executive role. Not new to Cleveland, but new to executive role. So that's one change that I noticed, that sometimes people will do exactly what you said. They'll call someone at their network back in their former city.
Yeah,
And
right.
they'll be good. After
Right,
that, they're
yeah.
good. So, but I'm kind of intrigued about this BIM 2.0 idea. I'm going to say you started it.
Okay.
But I think, I've asked you everything I plan to ask you. Is there any other memory of BIM, or since this is going into an archival space, anything else you want to share, or?
I don't know if there's necessarily anything
wondering.
that I want to share other than the fact that BIM was, even though it's sunsetting, was a great organization. And again, it did allow a lot of people that have traveled through Cleveland and Cuyahoga County
Right.
the ability to really have a network to talk to and to share ideas with in a very safe space. And it was a great organization. And
Right.
again, I'm going to still say it was you who said 2.0. And who knows what that will look like again with everything
Okay.
that's going on in this world. There may be a 2.0 coming down the pike.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you, Doug. I
Thank you,
appreciate your
Dr.
time.
Mobley, as
And I
always.
appreciate your memories and your insights.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity, and I'm so glad you called. And again, it brought back a lot of great memories with my dad and many other members of BIM, because you just brought up Stan and
Yes.
some others, and
Some great
it's really
people.
good to yes, it's really
Yeah.
good to think about, even Hilton and
Yeah.
Clay Wisham, and it's just again, the list goes on and
The
on
list
and
is
on.
long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. So
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.